You found the Stealth Podcast. Tonight, we'll travel through dark and lonely stories. Where in the world are you watching from? What time is it there? Subscribe and leave your like to support us. Let's begin. My name is Ethan Mercer. I'm 32 years old, and I've been living in Vancouver for most of my adult life. After losing my job as a graphic designer during company-wide layoffs, I decided to embrace the freedom that had been thrust upon me. 6 months ago, I converted an old Ford Transit into my new home, complete with a compact kitchenette, a surprisingly comfortable fold-out bed, and enough solar panels to keep my laptop charged for work. Freelancing had always been my backup plan, and now it was my reality. The transition was challenging but liberating. No rent, minimal bills, and the open road as my address. The idea of driving cross-country had been brewing in my mind for weeks. I'd mapped out a route that would take me through the Rockies, across the prairies, and eventually to Toronto, where my sister Megan lived. We hadn't seen each other in 3 years, and I figured surprising her would be worth the 4,300-kilometer journey. Plus, Toronto's freelance scene was supposedly booming, and I could use some new connections. My van, affectionately named Liberty, had proven reliable so far, and I felt confident she could handle the trip. I left Vancouver on a crisp October morning, the kind where the air feels clean enough to drink. The first few days on the road were everything I'd hoped for: stunning mountain vistas, peaceful nights under star-filled skies, and a sense of adventure that made me feel more alive than I had in years. I documented everything on my travel blog, posting photos of breathtaking landscapes and sharing stories of the interesting people I met at rest stops and campgrounds. My followers ate it up, and my subscriber count was steadily climbing. By the time I reached Ontario, I was seasoned in finding safe places to park overnight. Walmart parking lots, truck stops, quiet residential streets. I'd learned which spots would likely go undisturbed and which might invite unwanted attention. The weather had turned colder as I approached Toronto, and I'd started using my propane heater more frequently. The small space of the van became cozy rather than cramped when the temperature dropped, and I developed a nightly routine that made me feel at home no matter where I parked. I arrived in Toronto late in the afternoon, the city skyline dominated by the iconic CN Tower. The traffic was disorienting after days of open highways, and the constant honking and squealing brakes made me tense. I decided to find a place to park before contacting Megan. After driving around for nearly an hour, I settled on a spot near High Park. It seemed quiet enough, with several other vehicles parked overnight, suggesting it might be a safe zone for urban camping. I needed to recharge before facing the city proper. That evening, I walked to a nearby cafe with decent Wi-Fi to update my blog and check my emails. The barista, a guy named Devin with an elaborate sleeve tattoo, was friendly and curious about my lifestyle when he noticed my camera and travel-worn appearance. We chatted for a while as the cafe emptied out, and he mentioned he was also into photography. He showed me some impressive shots of Toronto's urban landscapes on his phone. When I mentioned I was new to the area, he was eager to suggest photogenic locations worth visiting. If you're looking for something off the beaten path, there's an abandoned factory in the Portlands that would make for some killer shots, Devin said, leaning across the counter. Especially at sunrise when the light hits the broken windows just right. He offered to text me the location, and I gave him my number without thinking twice. It seemed like a stroke of luck to meet a local photographer so quickly, and I was grateful for the insider tip. We exchanged Instagram handles, and I promised to tag him if I used any of his suggestions. Back at my van, I settled in for the night, planning to surprise Megan the next day. I scrolled through Devin's Instagram feed, impressed by his eye for composition. His photos captured Toronto's gritty urban beauty, the contrast between old industrial areas and gleaming modern developments. The abandoned factory he'd mentioned featured prominently in his feed, photographed at different times of day and in varying weather conditions. Something about the images was haunting yet beautiful. I decided I would definitely check it out, perhaps even tomorrow before heading to Megan's place. I fell asleep to the distant sounds of the city, feeling optimistic about the days ahead. My phone buzzed with a text just as I was drifting off. It was from Devin. "Great meeting you today. Let me know if you want a guide for that factory shoot." I smiled at the friendly gesture and replied with a quick thanks before putting my phone on silent. The routine of securing my van for the night was second nature now. Checking that all doors were locked, windows covered, and valuables hidden. I had no idea then that these simple security measures wouldn't be enough for what was coming. The next morning, I woke to the sound of rain pattering against the van's roof. So much for that sunrise shoot at the factory. I checked my phone to find 3 more texts from Devin, sent progressively later into the night. The last one, timestamped at 2:17 a.m., read, "Actually, I'm near High Park now. See any lights on in your van?" A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the autumn weather. How did he know where I was parked? I hadn't mentioned my location, just that I was staying in my van somewhere in Toronto. I peered through a small gap in my window covering, but saw only the usual morning scene. People hurrying to work with umbrellas, cars splashing through puddles. No sign of Devin. Still unsettled, I decided to move my van. The friendly barista suddenly seemed less charming and more concerning. As I started the engine, I noticed a small piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. Heart pounding, I stepped out quickly to grab it. It was a parking ticket, dated yesterday evening. I exhaled with relief. Just a parking violation, not a message from Devin. I drove to a different area of the city, finding a spot in a busy commercial district where the constant flow of people made me feel safer. After making myself presentable in a public restroom at a nearby coffee shop, I called Megan to let her know I was in town. She was delighted and insisted I come over immediately for breakfast. Her apartment was in a modern high-rise in the Distillery District, a stark contrast to my humble rolling home. As we hugged in her doorway, I felt the tension from the morning begin to dissolve. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Megan said as she poured me coffee in her sleek kitchen. I hesitated before sharing my concerns about Devin. When I finished, she looked troubled. "That's definitely creepy, but maybe there's an innocent explanation? Like maybe he recognized your van from something you posted online." I hadn't considered that possibility. I checked my recent blog posts and Instagram photos. Sure enough, in one image of a sunset, a portion of my van was visible, including the distinctive decal on the back window. I'd also tagged my location as approaching Toronto just yesterday. After breakfast, Megan had to leave for work, but she gave me a key to her apartment so I could shower and relax. "Stay here tonight," she insisted. "The Vanlife adventure can pause for sibling time." The offer was tempting, but I felt oddly protective of my independence. I promised to think about it and spent the day exploring the city, deliberately avoiding the cafe where I'd met Devin. Around mid-afternoon, my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. Devin had commented on my latest post. "Welcome to Toronto. How about that factory tour today? Light after rain makes for dramatic shots." The comment seemed innocent enough on the surface, visible to all my followers. But it made my skin crawl. I blocked him immediately, then set my account to private, something I'd resisted doing as I built my travel blog following. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. While I'd been exploring, Devin had liked dozens of my old posts, going back months. He'd been scrolling through my entire history. In several of the posts, I detailed modifications to my van, including where I kept my spare key hidden in a magnetic box near the rear wheel well, a tip I'd shared for other solo travelers who worried about locking themselves out. By evening, the rain had stopped, but my unease had grown into genuine anxiety. I decided to take Megan up on her offer and stay at her apartment. As I approached my van to grab some things, I noticed a figure leaning against a wall across the street, watching me. The street lamp illuminated just enough of his face for me to recognize Devin's distinctive tattoo. When he saw me notice him, he smiled and waved casually, as if there was nothing strange about him being there. My heart hammered in my chest as I quickly unlocked my van and jumped inside, locking the doors behind me. With shaking hands, I started the engine and pulled away from the curb, watching in my rearview mirror as Devin made no move to follow. He just stood there, watching me leave. I drove directly to Megan's building, constantly checking to make sure I wasn't being followed. Once safely inside her apartment, I called her to explain what had happened. "That's it," she said firmly. "I'm coming home now, and we're filing a police report." I agreed, finally admitting to myself that this wasn't just coincidence or my imagination. While waiting for Megan, I received a text from an unknown number. "Nice van. Shame about that loose wire near the battery. Could cause a fire if you're not careful." My blood turned to ice. I hadn't given Devin my number. We'd only connected on Instagram. Someone had been inside my van, looking at the engine. The battery connection had indeed been giving me trouble recently, something I hadn't mentioned to anyone, let alone posted about online. I took screenshots of everything, the texts, Devon's Instagram activity, all of it, evidence for the police. But deep down, I knew that without any actual crime having been committed, there might not be much they could do. Megan arrived home to find me pacing anxiously in her living room. She listened intently as I showed her the texts and explained my fears. "We need to report this now," she insisted, already dialing the non-emergency police number. The conversation with the dispatcher was brief and unsatisfying, without explicit threats or evidence of a break-in. All they could offer was to take a report and advise me to avoid contact with Devon. They suggested I stay somewhere he wouldn't know about, which at least validated my decision to camp out at Megan's apartment. That night, I barely slept despite the comfort of Megan's guest room. Every noise from the hallway or street below jolted me awake. Around 3 a.m., my phone lit up with another text from the unknown number. "Your sister's building has terrible security. I just walked right in behind someone. Nice place she has on the 12th floor." My heart nearly stopped. How did he know where Megan lived? How did he know I was here? I woke Megan immediately, showing her the message with trembling hands. We called the police again, this time receiving a more urgent response. 2 officers arrived within 20 minutes, stone-faced as they listened to our account. They did a sweep of the hallway and checked with the night security guard, who confirmed that no one matching Devon's description had entered the building. The officers suggested it might be a bluff, a way to frighten me, but they agreed to patrol the area more frequently for the night. Before leaving, one officer looked at me soberly. "Mr. Mercer, do you have any idea why this person might be fixated on you specifically?" The question haunted me after they left. I racked my brain for any possible reason. Had I inadvertently photographed something I shouldn't have during my travels? Had I crossed paths with Devon before without realizing it? Nothing came to mind. As morning approached, I decided to do some research on my own. A quick social media search revealed that Devon's full name was Devon Reese, and he had accounts across multiple platforms. His Instagram was filled with photography as I'd seen before, but his Facebook page showed a different side. Numerous posts ranting about privileged nomads and van life tourists who were colonizing urban spaces. By mid-morning, exhaustion had settled over me like a heavy blanket, but fear kept me alert. Megan called in sick to work, unwilling to leave me alone. We decided I should move my van to a secure parking garage nearby, somewhere with attendants and cameras. As we approached the van, I immediately noticed something was wrong. The driver's side window had been smashed, glass glittering on the pavement in the morning light. Inside, everything had been ransacked. My laptop was gone, along with my camera equipment and the cash I'd hidden in a hollowed-out book, a hiding spot I'd once mentioned in a blog post about van security. What disturbed me more than the theft was what had been left behind. Dozens of printed photographs arranged carefully on my bed. They were all images of me, getting coffee, walking through High Park, standing outside Megan's building, even sleeping in my van. Some were taken through the windows before I'd covered them properly. The final photo, placed prominently in the center, showed me asleep in Megan's guest room last night, clearly taken through the window from a building across the street. On the back, a message was written in neat block letters. "Vanlife isn't freedom. It's just another cage. One I hold the key to." The police took the break-in and stalking more seriously now. They collected the photographs as evidence and dusted for fingerprints, though they warned us that the perpetrator had likely been careful. An officer asked me to walk through the van to identify anything else missing or disturbed. That's when I noticed the propane line to my heater had been tampered with, not cut completely, but loosened just enough that it would leak slowly. If I had spent the night in the van and turned on the heater, I might not have woken up at all. We filed a comprehensive report, and the investigating officer promised to look into Devon Reese immediately. They advised me to find a hotel, somewhere with internal corridors and good security, rather than staying in either the van or at Megan's now compromised apartment. As we were about to leave the scene, my phone rang with a call from a blocked number. Against my better judgment, I answered and put it on speaker so the officer could hear. "How do you like my photography, Ethan?" Devon's voice was calm, almost friendly. "I think I really captured your essence. That vulnerable look while you sleep is especially compelling." The officer immediately took over, identifying himself and warning Devon about the consequences of harassment and stalking. Devon just laughed, "You don't get it," he said. "I'm not some random stalker. Ethan and I have a connection. He's been sharing his life with me for months through his blog. I'm just returning the favor by taking an interest." Then his tone changed, becoming harder. "Besides, I'm not the villain here. People like him come into our cities, take up space, don't contribute to the community, and act like they're so enlightened with their minimalist lifestyle, while actual homeless people get hassled by cops. The hypocrisy is what gets me." Before the officer could respond, Devin hung up. The police put out an alert for him, but I knew that wouldn't bring immediate relief. As Megan and I checked into a hotel across town, one we selected at random and paid for in cash, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The officer had warned us that stalkers often escalate when confronted by authorities, their fantasy of a relationship shattered by the intervention. Devin now knew he couldn't intimidate me into a personal connection. I wondered with growing horror what his new goal might be. 3 days passed in the anonymous hotel room. The police had brought Devin in for questioning, but released him due to lack of evidence. None of the photos had his fingerprints, and the phone used to contact me was a prepaid burner that couldn't be traced. They'd issued a restraining order, but it felt like a paper shield against a real threat. Megan had reluctantly returned to work, though she called to check on me hourly. I'd barely left the room except for necessities, ordering food delivery and using fake names when interacting with hotel staff. My van had been moved to a police impound lot for safekeeping while they completed their investigation. The damage would cost thousands to repair, but that was the least of my concerns now. I deactivated all my social media accounts and created a new email address, sharing it only with Megan and the detective assigned to my case. The isolation was getting to me, but the alternative seemed worse. Each time I looked out the window, I scanned the street below for Devin's face, jumping at shadows and ordinary pedestrians going about their business. On the 4th morning, I received an email from the detective. They had searched Devin's apartment and found a disturbing shrine dedicated to me and other Vanlife bloggers. Walls covered with photographs, printed blog posts with angry notes in the margins, and detailed maps tracking movements across the country. They'd found evidence that Devin had been following several travelers, but I was his current focus. Most alarmingly, they discovered journals outlining fantasies of teaching lessons to Vanlife frauds. They were holding him on charges related to illegal possession of weapons they'd found during the search, but he'd likely make bail soon. The detective advised me to leave Toronto immediately. He suggested I abandon my recognizable vehicle and travel conventionally, bus, train, or plane, back to Vancouver or somewhere else Devin wouldn't expect. The advice made sense, but the thought of abandoning liberty felt like giving up a part of myself. Still, my safety had to come first. I booked a flight to Vancouver for the following morning and tried to ignore the sense that I was being forced to flee my own life. Megan promised to come visit once things settled down, and we made plans for her to ship my remaining belongings once I found a new place to stay. That evening, I carefully packed the few things I'd salvaged from my van into a newly purchased duffel bag. As I was finishing, my burner phone buzzed with a text from Megan, coming to say goodbye tonight instead of morning. Be there in 30. Something felt off about the message. Megan knew I was flying out early. We'd already made plans for her to drive me to the airport. I called her regular number immediately. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright as she described her day at work. When I asked about the text, there was a pause followed by, "Ethan, I didn't send you any text. I don't even have your burner number." Ice flooded my veins as I realized the implications. "Call the police," I told her urgently. "Devin knows where I am." Even as the words left my mouth, I heard a key card reader beep outside my door, followed by the handle turning. The hotel had strict security protocols. No one should have been able to get a key to my room. I dropped the phone and lunged for the bathroom, locking myself inside just as I heard the main door open. "Ethan," Devin's voice called out in a sing-song tone. "No need to hide. I just want to talk." The front desk was very helpful once I explained I was your brother and had forgotten my key. My mind raced as I heard him moving around the main room. The bathroom window was small, but might be large enough for me to squeeze through. We were only on the 3rd floor, a dangerous drop, but potentially survivable. As I tried to silently unlock the window, Devin continued talking. "I've been reading your old blog posts while you've been hiding. Did you know you've written over 200,000 words about your journey? All that self-important drivel about finding freedom on the road, connecting with nature, escaping the rat race. But you're just another tourist, aren't you? Taking pretty pictures of other people's suffering and calling it authenticity. The window finally budged, letting in a rush of cold evening air. Outside, 3 stories below, was a narrow alley. No comfortable landing spot in sight. I heard Devin trying the bathroom door handle, then a thud as he threw his weight against it. The flimsy hotel door wouldn't hold for long. You know what I did before I became a barista? Devin called through the door. I was a wilderness guide. People paid me thousands to show them how to rough it safely. Then social media influencers like you started giving away all that knowledge for free, making it seem easy. My business died while trust fund babies played homeless in their $60,000 rigs. Another slam against the door, and I heard the frame splinter. I was out of time. I pushed the window fully open and squeezed my upper body through, trying not to look down at the daunting drop. As I struggled to maneuver my hips through the narrow opening, I heard a final crash as the bathroom door gave way. I felt Devin's hand grab my ankle just as I was about to push off. His grip was like iron as he began pulling me back inside. You don't get to escape the reality you helped create, he hissed, his face contorted with rage. In desperation, I kicked out with my free leg, connecting solidly with his jaw. The impact loosened his grip just enough for me to wrench my ankle free and propel myself fully out the window. The fall seemed to last forever and no time at all. I hit a pile of garbage bags that somewhat broke my fall, but pain still exploded through my left ankle and up my leg. Despite the agony, pure adrenaline got me to my feet. I could hear Devin shouting from the window above as I limped rapidly down the alley toward the street, where I could see pedestrians passing by. By the time I reached the busy sidewalk, I could hear police sirens approaching. Megan must have called them. I flagged down a passing taxi, throwing myself into the back seat and gasping out directions to the nearest hospital. As we pulled away, I caught a glimpse of Devin emerging from the alley, scanning the street frantically. For a moment, our eyes met through the taxi window, and the pure hatred in his gaze chilled me to my core. This wasn't over. The taxi driver, sensing my distress, accelerated quickly, putting distance between us and my pursuer. At the hospital, police met me in the emergency room. They informed me that officers had been dispatched to the hotel, but found no sign of Devin. He'd vanished yet again. My ankle wasn't broken, just badly sprained, but the doctor insisted on keeping me overnight for observation due to the fall. Police posted an officer outside my room, finally taking the threat seriously now that Devin had escalated to breaking and entering and physical assault. As I lay in the hospital bed, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Next time, there won't be a convenient pile of garbage to land on. Your luck is running out, just like your precious freedom. Morning came with the news that Devin had been spotted trying to cross the border into New York State. The police believed he was fleeing the country after his failed attempt to harm me. I should have felt relieved, but something didn't add up. Why would he run now? He'd been so methodical, so patient in his stalking. The sudden change in behavior seemed out of character for someone who had meticulously planned every move up to this point. When I shared my concerns with the detective, he nodded thoughtfully but assured me that Border Patrol had been alerted and Devin would likely be apprehended soon. Against medical advice, I checked myself out of the hospital. The detective had arranged for a safe house where I could stay until Devin was caught, an unmarked apartment in a secure building downtown. Megan met me there, bringing clothes and necessities. We spent the afternoon in tense silence, jumping at every sound from the hallway. That evening, the detective called with what should have been good news. They had security camera footage of someone matching Devin's description crossing into Buffalo. The chase had moved to American soil, and U.S. authorities were now involved. "It's almost over," Megan said, squeezing my hand. "Once they catch him, you can start rebuilding." I nodded, but the nagging feeling of wrongness persisted. Something about this entire situation felt orchestrated, as if Devin was still somehow in control of the narrative. I voiced these concerns to Megan, who attributed them to trauma and hypervigilance, natural responses to what I'd been through. She suggested I try to get some sleep while she kept watch, and reluctantly, I agreed. I dozed fitfully on the safe house couch, waking frequently to check that Megan was still awake in the armchair across from me. Around midnight, she gently shook me fully awake. "I need to make a quick run to the all-night pharmacy," she whispered. "You're out of pain medication, and your ankle is swelling again." I protested weakly, not wanting her to leave, but the throbbing in my ankle made a compelling counterargument. She promised to be back in 20 minutes, texting me when she left the building and again when she returned. Reluctantly, I agreed, watching anxiously as she locked the door behind her. 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Megan. "At pharmacy now. Back in 10. I exhaled with relief, allowing myself to relax slightly for the first time in days. Then another text came through, this one from an unknown number. "She shouldn't have left you alone, Ethan." My blood turned to ice. I immediately called Megan, but the call went straight to voicemail. I tried again with the same result. With shaking hands, I dialed the detective's emergency number, explaining the situation in a panic. As I was hanging up with the detective, who promised to send officers immediately, I heard a key in the lock. Relief washed over me. Megan was back safely. But as the door swung open, it wasn't my sister who stood in the doorway, but Devin, a terrifying smile spreading across his face. "Miss me?" he asked, closing the door behind him with a soft click. In his hand was a key card identical to the one the detective had given us. "Your sister is fine, by the way, just taking an unexpected nap in her car. She really should be more careful about accepting help from strangers when she drops her shopping bags." My injured ankle made running impossible. I reached for my phone to call 911, but Devin was faster, snatching it from my hand and tossing it across the room. "The police are already on their way," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The detective knows you're here." Devin's smile didn't waver. "I'm counting on it," he replied calmly. "But they won't arrive in time for the main event." From his jacket pocket, he produced a small device that looked like a remote control. "Do you know what's special about this building, Ethan? It was converted from an old factory. The gas lines are original, very fragile. One spark in the right place." Horror dawned on me as I realized his plan. This wasn't just about me anymore. There were dozens of other residents in the building, all at risk. "You'll die too," I pointed out, desperately trying to reason with him. Devin shrugged. "Maybe, but I'll have made my point. Your privileged lifestyle has consequences, Ethan. Real consequences that affect real people. Tonight, you get to experience what it's like when someone else decides your fate." His finger hovered over the button on the remote, his eyes locked with mine in a twisted moment of intimacy. In that moment of hesitation, I noticed something I hadn't before, a familiar jangling sound coming from Devin's pocket. My van keys. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This was never about stalking or harassment. It was about my van, specifically what I was carrying in it. 3 months ago, I'd given a ride to a hitchhiker who'd left behind a small package. I'd planned to mail it to the address on the label, but had forgotten. The package was still hidden in the false bottom of my kitchen cabinet, where any thorough searcher would eventually find it. "This isn't about van life at all, is it?" I said slowly. "This is about what was in that package." Devin's expression flickered momentarily, confirming my suspicion. "You're just the delivery boy who got curious," he said, his voice hardening. "Should have minded your own business and kept driving." The pieces fell into place. The careful surveillance, the break-in, the coincidental meeting at the cafe. Devin had been tracking the package, not me. I was collateral damage in something much bigger. The revelation didn't make the situation less dangerous, but it changed my understanding of my opponent. As we stood in this deadly standoff, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. Devin's jaw tightened as he glanced toward the window. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his features. "They're coming for you," I said, pressing my advantage. "Whatever's in that package, is it worth spending your life in prison?" For a moment, he seemed to waver, the remote trembling slightly in his hand. Then his expression hardened again. "You still don't get it," he said quietly. "Some things are bigger than either of us." The next few seconds unfolded in slow motion. Devin's thumb moved toward the button just as the apartment door burst open. 2 police officers rushed in, weapons drawn. Devin spun toward them, remote still in hand. "Drop it," one officer shouted. But whether from panic or determination, Devin's thumb completed its deadly journey, pressing down on the button. I lunged forward despite my injury, desperate to stop what was happening. The last thing I saw was the officer's finger tightening on the trigger as Devin's face registered the first hint of fear. Then the world exploded in a blinding flash of light, and deafening sound. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed, my body a catalog of injuries, burns, lacerations, and a concussion in addition to my sprained ankle. Megan sat beside me, her face pale but relieved as she noticed my eyes opening. The detective stood at the foot of the bed, his arm in a sling. Through fragmented conversations and news reports in the following days, I pieced together what had happened. Devin's device had indeed triggered an explosion, but not the catastrophic one he'd planned. A fault in the detonator had limited the blast to the apartment itself. One officer had been seriously injured, and Devin himself had died at the scene. The investigation revealed that Devin had been working for a drug trafficking organization. The package I'd unknowingly been transporting contained account information for offshore banking transactions worth millions. When the organization realized the package was missing, they'd sent Devin, one of their lower-level operatives who had legitimate work as a barista, to recover it. His hatred of Vanlife bloggers had been real, making me an especially satisfying target, but it was ultimately about the package, not me. They found similar surveillance materials for other Vanlifers who had unknowingly transported packages along established routes. 6 weeks later, as I prepared to board a plane back to Vancouver, I looked at the small apartment key in my palm. After everything that had happened, I had sold my van and used the insurance money for a security deposit on a ground-floor studio apartment. The nomadic lifestyle I had embraced now felt tainted, unsafe. The open road that had once represented freedom now seemed exposed, vulnerable. As I handed my boarding pass to the gate agent, I felt the weight of invisible eyes on my back, a sensation I suspected would never fully disappear. Vanlife was supposed to be about escaping the system, I told Megan during our final dinner together. But in the end, I was just another cog in someone else's machine, moving their product, playing into their plans without even knowing it. She squeezed my hand sympathetically. "You couldn't have known," she said. "No one expects their lifestyle choice to make them a target. But that was the point, wasn't it? Our choices, even the ones we think free us from convention, create new vulnerabilities, new ways for malice to find us." The true horror wasn't Devin or what he'd done. It was the realization that there is no escape from the darker aspects of human nature. They follow us wherever we go, waiting for the moment we let our guard down. I'm Natalie Harper, 29 years old, and I live in Montreal. Life there's good, busy streets, cozy cafes, and my little graphic design gig that pays the bills. But I've always had this itch to roam, you know? That's why I sunk every spare dime into converting my beat-up cargo van into a rolling home. It's got a bed, a tiny kitchen, even a solar panel slapped on top. Last week, I decided to take it for a spin, a solo trip to Toronto. 5 hours west, not too far, just enough to feel free. I'd heard about this spot near the Don Valley, a quiet pull-off where vanlifers crash without much hassle. Sounded perfect. Toronto hit me like a wall of noise when I rolled in. Horns blaring, lights flashing. It's a different beast from Montreal. I navigated through the chaos, my van rattling over potholes, until I found the spot. It's this wooded patch off the highway, tucked behind some trees, with the river gurgling nearby. I parked, cracked a beer, and just soaked it in. The city skyline glowed in the distance, all jagged and alive. Felt like I'd carved out my own little world here. The first night was chill. I cooked some ramen on my propane stove, scrolled through my phone till the signal dropped, and crashed hard. Woke up to birds chirping and the sun slicing through the trees. It was exactly what I'd pictured, peaceful, simple. I spent the day wandering Toronto, hitting up Kensington Market, grabbing a coffee, sketching some street scenes. By dusk, I was back at my spot, feeling smug about how easy this van life thing was turning out to be. That's when I met him. I was locking up the van when this guy wandered over from the trees. Tall, wiry, with a scruffy beard and a hoodie pulled low. "Hey, nice rig," he said, nodding at my van. His voice was gravelly, like he'd smoked a pack already today. I smiled, said thanks, kept it polite. He introduced himself as Gabe, said he was just passing through. Seemed harmless enough, maybe a little nosy. We chatted for a bit, nothing deep, just small talk about the city, the weather. He asked if I'd been here long, and I told him it was my second night. "Good spot," he said, eyeing my van again. Real quiet. Something about the way he lingered on that word stuck with me, but I brushed it off. People are weird sometimes, right? I've met plenty of oddballs traveling. Gabe hung around a little longer, asking about my setup, how I liked the solar, if I'd ever had trouble with cops. I answered, keeping it light, but I was ready to call it a night. Well, see you around, he finally said, shuffling back into the trees. I watched him go, his silhouette fading into the dark. Didn't think much of it then, just another drifter, probably. Back inside, I locked the doors, pulled the curtains tight, and settled in. The river hummed outside, a steady drone that lulled me into a half-sleep. I figured I'd stay a few more days, maybe explore more of Toronto. It was all good, my little adventure was clicking along just fine. Around midnight, I jolted awake. No idea why. Just that gut feeling you get when something's off. I lay there, holding my breath, listening. The river was still going, but there was something else. A faint scrape, like metal on metal, right outside my van. My heart kicked up a notch, but I told myself it was nothing. Probably a branch or some animal. I peeked through the curtain, just a quick glance. The trees were still, the moonlight cutting sharp shadows across the dirt. No sign of Gabe or anyone else. I let out a shaky laugh. Guess I wasn't as tough as I thought. Still, I double-checked the locks before climbing back into bed, figuring it was all in my head. Morning hit me like a slap, cold air sneaking through the van's cracks, the kind that makes you rethink this whole living free idea. I crawled out of bed, bleary-eyed, and fired up my stove for coffee. That scrape from last night was still nagging at me, but daylight made it feel dumb to worry. I stepped outside to stretch, and that's when I saw it. A long, thin scratch down the side of my van. Not deep, but fresh, glinting in the sun. My stomach did a little flip. Could have been a branch, sure, but it looked too clean, too deliberate. I ran my fingers over it, trying to play it cool. Maybe I'd parked too close to something sharp yesterday. Yeah, that's it. No point in freaking out over nothing. Still, I grabbed my phone and snapped a pic, just in case. Signal was spotty out here, but I texted my buddy Sam back in Montreal anyway. First van battle scar. Worth it. He'd get a kick out of it. I shook it off and headed into the city for the day. Toronto was buzzing, streetcars clanging, people hustling. I hit up the distillery district, sketching old brick buildings and sipping overpriced tea. Kept my mind off that scratch, but it crept back in every quiet moment. By late afternoon, I was beat and ready to crash back at my spot. Driving up, I noticed tire tracks in the dirt near my usual parking place. Fresh ones, wider than mine. Someone else had been here. I parked anyway, telling myself it was public land, no big deal. But as I cooked dinner, beans and rice, nothing fancy, I kept glancing out the window. The trees looked thicker tonight, like they were closing in. I laughed at myself, muttering, "Get a grip, Nat." Then I saw him again. Gabe. He was leaning against a tree maybe 20 feet away, just watching me through the glass. My spoon froze halfway to my mouth. He didn't move, didn't wave, just stood there, hands in his pockets. I set my food down, heart thumping, and slid the window open a crack. "Hey, Gabe," I called, keeping my voice steady. "You good?" He nodded, slow, then said, "Yeah, just checking out the river." His eyes didn't leave me, though. It was creepy as hell, but I didn't want to escalate it. "Cool," I said, shutting the window fast. I sat there, picking at my food, appetite gone. Okay, this guy was starting to get under my skin. Was he just lonely, or was this some horror movie vibe I'd stumbled into? I debated packing up and finding a new spot, but it was dark now, and driving tired on these roads felt like a bad call. Plus, I'd spent weeks planning this trip. Why let some weirdo ruin it? Later, I was brushing my teeth when I heard it. A low whistle, sharp and quick, cutting through the night. I froze, toothpaste dripping down my chin. It came again, closer this time, from the trees. My brain screamed animal, but my gut wasn't buying it. I spat into the sink, wiped my mouth, and peeked out. Nothing but shadows swaying in the breeze. I locked everything twice, even jammed a crate against the back doors. Overkill, maybe, but better safe than sorry, right? I climbed into bed, phone clutched tight, though the signal was still garbage. That whistle replayed in my head, too human to ignore. Maybe Gabe was messing with me, or maybe I was just paranoid. Sleep wasn't happening. Every rustle outside had me sitting up, straining to hear. Around 2 a.m., I caught it, a faint crunch, like boots on gravel, circling the van. My breath hitched. I didn't dare look out this time. Just lay there, wide awake, waiting for whatever came next. That crunching outside my van stopped dead, and the silence was worse, thick, suffocating. I lay there, clutching my phone like it could save me, even with no bars. Then it came, a hard, deliberate knock on the back door. My whole body locked up. "Hey, Natalie," Gabe's voice rasped through the metal. "You awake?" How the hell did he know my name? I hadn't told him that. My mouth went dry, heart slamming so loud I swore he could hear it. I didn't answer, just held my breath, hoping he'd think I was out cold. Another knock, sharper this time. "Come on, I know you're in there." His tone wasn't friendly anymore. It had this edge, like he was done playing nice. I scrambled to the front, peering through the windshield. There he was, lit up by moonlight, grinning like a jackal, a crowbar dangling from his hand. Oh shit, this was bad. I fumbled for my keys, hands shaking so hard I dropped them under the seat. "Just want to talk," he called, circling to the side window. The glass rattled as he tapped it with the crowbar. Light it first, then harder. Crack. A spider web spread across the pane. I bit back a scream, digging for the keys. This wasn't some drifter. This guy was unhinged, and I'd parked myself right in his playground. Finally, I snatched the keys, jammed them into the ignition. The engine sputtered. "Come on, you piece of junk." Gabe laughed, low and nasty, like he knew I was screwed. "You're not leaving yet," he said, smashing the window in. Glass sprayed my lap, and I yelped, flooring the gas. The van lurched forward, tires spinning in the dirt, but he grabbed the frame, hanging on like a damn spider. I swerved hard, clipping a tree, and he lost his grip, tumbling into the dark. My headlights caught his shape rolling down the embankment toward the river. I didn't stop to check, just gunned it onto the highway, pulse roaring in my ears. The city lights blurred past, but I couldn't shake the image of that crowbar or the way he'd said my name. I pulled into a gas station lot, panting, glass crunching under my boots as I climbed out to check the damage. The side window was toast, and my stuff was a mess, sketchbooks, clothes, all scattered. Then I saw it, a folded note stuck under my wiper. "You can't run forever, Nat." My knees buckled. He'd been in here. When? How? I bolted inside the station, babbling to the clerk about some guy attacking me. He looked half asleep, barely cared, but called the cops anyway. They showed up 20 minutes later, two bored guys who took my statement like it was a chore. "Probably just a transient," one said, shrugging. "Stay out of sketchy spots." "Yeah, thanks, genius." I didn't feel safe, not even close. Back in the van, I sat there, doors locked, watching every shadow. My phone pinged, signal was back. A text from Sam. "Battle scar, huh? You okay?" I started typing, then stopped. How do you explain this? Gabe wasn't just some creep. He'd targeted me, and I didn't know why or how far he'd go. I decided to crash at a Walmart lot, figuring the lights and cameras might keep him off me. But as I pulled in, my headlights swept over a figure by the entrance. Tall, wiry, hoodie up. He turned, and I swear his eyes locked on mine. My blood went cold. This wasn't over. I slammed the van into reverse, peeling out of that Walmart lot before Gabe could take a step. My tires squealed, and some late-night shoppers stared, but I didn't care. I hit the highway, pushing 90, the wind howling through the busted window. Glass shards bit into my arms, but I barely felt it. Adrenaline had me wired. I had to get out of Toronto, back to Montreal, anywhere but here. The road stretched dark and empty, just me and the hum of the engine. I kept checking the mirrors, expecting his face to pop up like some horror flick villain. Nothing yet, but my gut screamed he wasn't done. That note, "You can't run forever," burned in my brain. What did he want? My van? My stuff? Me? The thought made me gag. About 20 miles out, the engine coughed, and the dash lit up. Low fuel. You've got to be kidding me. I'd been too busy running to check the gauge. Nearest station was a dot on my GPS, some podunk stop off the 401. I limped in, coasting on fumes, and parked under the flickering neon sign. Place was dead, just a sleepy attendant inside, munching chips. I swiped my card, hands trembling, and started pumping. That's when I heard it, a low rumble, distinct from the highway drone. Headlights flared in the distance, closing fast. My chest tightened. It was a pickup, old and rusted, tearing straight for the station. I yanked the nozzle out. gas sloshing on my shoes, and dove for the driver's seat. The truck screeched in, cutting me off, and Gabe leapt out, crowbar gleaming. "Told you," he shouted, swinging at my windshield. It shattered, raining glass, and I floored it, clipping his truck as I swerved. He cursed, chasing on foot, but I hit the road, tires smoking. My van was dying, sputtering, rattling, but I pushed it anyway. He didn't give up. That truck roared behind me, gaining fast. I took a sharp turn onto a side road, trees whipping past, praying I'd lose him. The van fishtailed, barely holding the curve, and I saw water ahead, Lake Ontario's edge. Dead end. I slammed the brakes, skidding to a stop inches from the drop. His headlights filled my mirrors, blinding. I grabbed my pocket knife, pathetic, but it was something, and kicked the door open, running for the trees. Branches clawed my face, my breath ragged. I heard him crash through behind me. Close, too close. "Natalie," he yelled, almost gleeful. I tripped, sprawling in the dirt, and he was on me, crowbar raised. I rolled, slashing at his leg with the knife. He howled, stumbling back. I scrambled up, bolting deeper into the woods, his curses echoing. My lungs burned, legs screaming, but I kept going, ducking under pines, splashing through a creek. The truck's engine growled somewhere behind. He wasn't done hunting. I crouched low, hiding in the dark, praying he'd miss me. Minutes dragged like hours, my heartbeat deafening. Then, silence. No footsteps, no engine. Just the wind and my ragged gasps. I peeked out, nothing. Had I lost him? I edged back toward the lake, needing my van, needing to get out. But as I broke the tree line, I froze. My van was there, doors wide open, and he was nowhere in sight. I crept toward the van, knife out, every nerve screaming to run the other way. The doors yawned like a trap, but my keys, my phone, everything was inside. I had to chance it. The air was still, too still, and the lake lapped softly nearby. I stepped closer, peering in. My stuff was trashed, clothes shredded, sketches torn. Then I saw it. A gas can, tipped over, liquid pooling on the floor. A twig snapped behind me, and I spun, but too late. Gabe lunged from the shadows, crowbar arcing down. I dodged, barely, and it grazed my shoulder, pain exploding. I slashed with the knife, catching his arm, and he snarled, dropping the crowbar. We grappled, rolling toward the lake, his hands clawing for my throat. He was stronger, heavier, and I felt my grip slipping. "You shouldn't have come here," he hissed, pinning me. I kicked, thrashing, and my foot caught the gas can, knocking it into the water. A lighter flicked in his hand. "Where'd he get that?" And he grinned, sparking it. The fumes caught, a whoosh of flame erupting from the van. I screamed, shoving him off, and bolted as the fire roared. He came after me, relentless, even as the blaze lit the night. I ran blind, toward the road, flames licking the trees now. My shoulder throbbed, blood soaking my shirt, but I didn't stop. Headlights flashed ahead. A car, thank God. I waved, sobbing, and it screeched to a halt. An older guy jumped out, yelling, "What the hell's going on?" I collapsed against his hood, gasping about Gabe, the fire. He dragged me into the car, peeling out as sirens wailed in the distance. Through the rear window, I saw my van engulfed, a fireball against the dark. Gabe stood there, silhouetted, just watching. Cops swarmed minutes later, but he was gone, melted into the woods like a ghost. They found his truck, stolen, and my note, but no trace of him. I made it back to Montreal, crashing at Sam's, a wreck, shoulder-stitched, nerve shot. Cops called it a random attack, some psycho preying on travelers. But I knew better. He'd picked me, planned it. That note wasn't random. Weeks later, sorting through what little I'd salvaged, I found a photo tucked in my sketchbook, a blurry shot of me sleeping in the van, taken through the window. I don't sleep much now. Every creak, every shadow, I see him. Toronto was supposed to be my escape, my big adventure. Instead, one guy with a crowbar and a sick mind torched my life. I sold the van's wreckage, quit the road. But I keep that photo, a reminder, he's still out there. Yesterday, a text pinged from an unknown number. "Miss me, Nat?" My hands shook as I blocked it, but I know it's him. He's not done, and I'm not sure I'll ever be free. I'm Ethan Caldwell, 32 years old, and I call Vancouver home. Rainy days, killer views, and a steady job fixing bikes keep me grounded there. But I've got this restless streak, always have, so I traded my savings for a busted old Sprinter van a couple years back. Turned it into my rolling escape pod, bed, stove, even a little shelf for my vinyls. Last month, I pointed it east, chasing a break from the grind. Toronto was the plan, big, loud, a perfect spot to test my setup. The drive was brutal, 3,000 miles of highways, gas station coffee, and sketchy rest stops. I rolled into Toronto late, the skyline punching up through the haze like a jagged promise. Found a spot to park near High Park, this sprawling green chunk on the city's west end. It's got trails, ponds, and enough cover to tuck my van away without drawing eyes. I pulled in, killed the engine, and just breathed. Felt good to be somewhere new. First night was smooth. I cracked a window, cooked some chili on my camp stove, and spun an old Clash record low. The park was quiet, just crickets and the occasional car rumbling past. I'd scoped it online. Vanlifers crash here sometimes, no big fuss. Figured I'd stay a few days, explore the city, maybe hit a bar or two. Simple plan, right? Next morning, I wandered the park trails, boots crunching leaves, air crisp enough to wake me up. Toronto's got this vibe, urban but wild, like it's daring you to keep up. I grabbed a sandwich from a food truck near Bloor Street, sketched some trees in my notebook, and felt like I was nailing this road life thing. Back at the van, I kicked back with a beer, watching dusk settle over the park. That's when I met her. I was tossing my empty into a bin when this woman strolled up, short, wiry, with a tangle of red hair and a denim jacket. "Hey, cool van," she said, nodding at my rig. Her smile was tight, like she was sizing me up. "Thanks," I said, keeping it casual. She introduced herself as Mara, said she lived nearby and walked the park a lot. Seemed friendly enough. We shot the breeze for a bit. She asked about my trip, where I was from. I kept it vague, just Vancouver, no details. She had this way of leaning in, like she was hanging on every word, but her eyes kept flicking to my van. "You staying long?" she asked. "Few days maybe," I said. She nodded, said, "Good spot for it," then wandered off toward the trees. Nice enough, I guess, but something about her stuck with me. Back inside, I locked up, pulled my curtains, and crashed. The park hummed outside, wind rustling, distant traffic. I drifted off thinking about tomorrow, maybe hitting the CN Tower or something touristy. Felt like I'd landed on my feet here. I woke up around 3 a.m., groggy, throat dry. Reached for my water bottle, then froze. Something was off, too quiet, like the air was holding its breath. I sat up, listening. Then I heard it, a faint click, like a latch popping, coming from the back of the van. My skin prickled. I'd locked everything, hadn't I? I grabbed my flashlight, flicked it on, and crept to the rear. The beam shook in my hand, cutting through the dark. The back door was cracked open, just an inch, swaying in the breeze. My stomach dropped. I checked those locks twice. No way it just popped. I eased it shut, latched it hard, and sat there, wide awake, wondering what the hell I'd gotten myself into. I barely slept after that door thing. Kept my flashlight on, aimed at the back, like it'd scare off whatever, or whoever, messed with it. Morning came slow, gray light seeping through the curtains, and I was up, chugging coffee, trying to shake the jitters. I stepped outside to check the van, and there it was, a faint smudge on the rear handle, greasy, like someone's fingers had been there. My gut twisted. Could have been me, sure, but I'm anal about wiping stuff down. This felt wrong. I ran my hand over the latch. No damage, no scratches, just that smudge. Maybe it was paranoia, but I couldn't shake the image of someone out there in the dark, testing my locks. I thought about Mara, her weird intensity yesterday. Nah, she was just chatty, right? Still, I grabbed my multi-tool, flipped out the blade, and tucked it in my pocket. Better safe than stuck. Decided to hit the city, get some distance. Drove to Queen Street West, parked near a busy stretch, and wandered. Boutiques, graffiti, people everywhere. It was loud, alive, a good distraction. I grabbed a taco from this hole-in-the-wall joint, watched a street musician shred, and tried to reset. But my mind kept drifting back to that smudge, that click. Was I overreacting? By afternoon, I was wiped. Headed back to High Park, figuring daylight would make it less creepy. Pulled into my spot, and everything looked normal. Trees swaying, a jogger huffing past. I cooked some eggs, cracked a window, and told myself to chill. Maybe the door just hadn't latched right. Old van, old problems. I'd double-check tonight. No big deal. Then Mara showed up again. I was rinsing my plate when she popped out from the trail, same jacket, same tight smile. "Hey, Ethan," she said, like we were buddies. I nodded, caught off guard she remembered my name. I'd only mentioned it once. "Settling in?" she asked, leaning against a tree, too close to my van for my liking. "Yeah, it's cool," I said, keeping my tone light. She started asking questions, where I'd been today, if I was alone, how long I'd keep the van here. It was casual, but pushy, like she was fishing. I dodged, said I was playing it by ear, and she just kept smiling. "Park's nice, but it gets quiet at night," she said, eyes locked on mine. Real quiet. A chill crawled up my spine, but I laughed it off. "Good for sleeping," I shot back. She lingered, chatting about nothing, weather, some dog she saw earlier. I was polite, but ready for her to bounce. Finally, she said, "See ya," and drifted back into the trees. I watched her go. That smile burned into my head. Was she just nosy, or was this turning into something disturbing? I shook it off, locked the van tight, and settled in for the night. Around midnight, it started. I was half asleep when I heard it. A soft tap, tap, tap on the side of the van, like fingers drumming. I bolted upright, heart racing, grabbed my flashlight, flicked it around inside. Nothing. The tapping stopped, then picked up again, slower, deliberate. I crept to the window, peeked out. Shadows shifted, but no one was there. My breath hitched. This wasn't wind or branches. I sat there, gripping my multi-tool, listening as the taps circled the van, front, back, sides, like someone was pacing around me. My phone had one bar, barely enough to text. I shot a quick one to my sister in Vancouver. Weird night in Toronto. Van acting up. Didn't want to scare her, but I needed something out there, proof I wasn't losing it. The tapping stopped, and I waited, ears straining, for whatever came next. I sat frozen, clutching that multi-tool, as the silence stretched after the tapping stopped. My flashlight beam jittered across the van's walls, catching every shadow. Then, bang, a hard thud slammed the back door, rocking the whole rig. I yelped, nearly dropping the light. "Ethan," Mara's voice hissed outside, low and sharp. "Open up." My blood turned to ice. How long had she been out there? And why the hell was she back? I didn't move, didn't breathe. Another thud, then scraping, like nails dragging down metal. "I know you're awake," she said, her tone flipping from calm to unhinged. I peeked through the curtain, just a slit. There she was, red hair wild in the moonlight, eyes wide and locked on the van. She held something, a screwdriver, glinting as she tapped it against the door. This wasn't nosy anymore. This was scary as hell. My hands shook as I grabbed my keys, sliding toward the driver's seat. The engine had to start. Had to. She banged again, harder, and I heard the latch groan. "You don't get it, do you?" she shouted, voice cracking. "This is my spot." I turned the key, sputter, cough, nothing. Shit. The battery was dying, and I was trapped with this psycho outside. She circled to the side, jabbing the screwdriver at the window. Crack. Glass splintered, and I ducked as shards flew. "You think you can just roll in here?" she snarled, reaching through. I swung the multi-tool, catching her hand, and she jerked back, cursing. The engine finally roared to life, and I floored it, tires spinning dirt as I peeled out of High Park. I hit the road, headlights slicing the dark, her screams fading behind me. My pulse hammered. What was her deal? My spot. She'd lost it, and I'd parked right in her crosshairs. I swerved through empty streets, aiming for downtown, somewhere with lights and people. The busted window whistled, cold air stinging my face, but I didn't stop. I pulled into a 24-hour diner lot off Yonge Street, panting, glass crunching under my boots as I checked the damage. The side window was trashed, and my vinyls were scattered, Joe Strummer's face staring up from the floor. Then I saw it, a scrap of paper wedged in the seat. "You're mine now," scrawled in jagged pen. My stomach dropped. She'd been inside. I stumbled into the diner, babbling to the waitress about some crazy woman. She looked me over, sweaty, bleeding from glass cuts, and called the cops. 2 officers showed up, took my story, but their vibe was skeptical. "Park's got weirdos," one said, shrugging. "File a report if she comes back." Useless. I slumped in a booth, coffee shaking in my hands, feeling hunted. Back in the van, I locked everything, parked under a streetlight, and watched the lot. My phone buzzed. My sister. What's weird? Call me. I didn't. Couldn't explain this yet. Mara wasn't just a nutcase. She'd marked me, and that note proved it. I wasn't safe here. Around 4 a.m., headlights swept the lot. A beat-up sedan rolled in slow, circling my van. My heart sank. It was her, red hair flashing as she leaned out, staring right at me. She didn't stop, just drove off, but the message was clear. This was personal now, and she wasn't letting go. I didn't wait for her to circle back. Keys in, engine growling. I tore out of that diner lot like a bat out of hell. Young Street blurred past, neon signs, late-night stragglers, but I kept my eyes on the mirrors. Nothing yet, but my gut screamed she was close. I needed out of Toronto, fast, back to Vancouver where I could breathe again. The highway opened up, dark and endless, my van rattling from the busted window. I pushed 100, wind roaring, glass biting my knuckles as I gripped the wheel. Every headlight behind me felt like her, and I couldn't shake that note. You're mine now. What kind of sick game was this? My mind raced. She tracked me once, she could do it again. Half an hour out, the gas light blinked on. Typical, running for my life, and now this. I spotted an exit near Milton, some lonely Esso station glowing in the dark. Pulled in, tires screeching, and started pumping, eyes darting around. The attendant was inside, half asleep, no help if she showed. I kept the nozzle in one hand, multi-tool in the other. Then I heard it. Tires crunching gravel, slow and deliberate. That sedan crept into the lot, headlights off, Mara's silhouette hunched over the wheel. My chest seized. I yanked the pump out, gas splashing my jeans, and dove for the van. She gunned it, cutting me off, and leapt out, screwdriver raised like a damn horror movie. I swerved the van, clipping her bumper, and she swung, crack, denting the hood. "You don't leave," she shrieked, chasing as I peeled out. Her car roared to life behind me, tailing close, weaving like she wanted to ram me. I took a sharp turn onto a back road, trees swallowing us, praying I'd lose her in the dark. She stayed on me, headlights blinding in the mirrors. The road narrowed, twisting toward a ravine. I knew it from maps, a drop-off near the Credit River. I pushed the van harder, engine whining, then saw it, barricades ahead, road closed. Dead end. I slammed the brakes, skidding, and she rammed my rear, jolting me forward. I kicked the door open, bolting for the woods, her engine revving behind. Branches snapped underfoot, my breath ragged as I ran blind. She crashed through after me, screaming my name, her voice echoing like a banshee. I tripped, rolling down a slope, and landed hard by the river, rocks cutting my palms. She was close, too close, her footsteps pounding above. I scrambled up, splashing into the shallows, icy water soaking me. A beam of light cut through, her flashlight hunting me. I ducked behind a tree, heart hammering, as she paced the bank, muttering, "You can't hide, Ethan." I held my breath, waiting. The light swung away, her steps fading. I stayed put, shivering, counting minutes. No engine, no screams, just the river's rush. Had she given up? I edged back toward the road, needing my van, my keys still inside. But as I climbed the slope, I saw her sedan parked by my rig, doors open, waiting. I crept closer, staying low, the ravine dark behind me. My van sat there, rear dented, keys dangling in the ignition, my lifeline. Mara's sedan idled beside it, empty, but she wasn't gone. I felt it. I gripped my multi-tool, inching toward the driver's side, eyes scanning the trees. Then, snap, a branch broke, and she lunged from the shadows, screwdriver aimed at my chest. I dodged, barely, the blade grazing my arm, hot pain flaring. She grinned, feral, and swung again. "You're mine," she hissed, shoving me back. I stumbled, slashing with the tool, catching her shoulder. She yelped, but kept coming, stronger than she looked. We grappled, slipping in the mud, her nails clawing my face. She pinned me, knee on my chest, screwdriver raised. "No one takes my place," she spat, eyes wild. I twisted, desperate, and kicked her off, rolling toward the van. She lunged again, but I grabbed a rock, smashing it against her hand. The screwdriver flew, and she howled, clutching her wrist. I bolted for the door. I dove in, slamming it shut, and turned the key. The engine sputtered. "Come on," as she pounded the window, cracking it. It caught, and I floored it, tires spinning mud. She chased, screaming, but I hit the road, leaving her in the dust. My arm bled, soaking the seat, but I didn't stop, straight for the highway. Cops found me an hour later, pulled over, shaking. I'd flagged a trucker, babbling about Mara, the attack. They searched the ravine. Her sedan was there, abandoned, stuffed with maps, photos of vans, mine circled in red. She'd been stalking travelers, claiming High Park as her twisted turf. No sign of her, though she'd vanished. Back in Vancouver, I'm a mess. Arm stitched, face scratched, and I sold the van cheap. Couldn't stand it anymore. Cops called her a drifter, unstable, said I was lucky. Lucky? She'd wrecked me, turned my freedom into a nightmare. One person, one screwed up mind, and my life's in pieces. I keep my blinds shut now, jump at every noise. My sister checks in, but I don't tell her everything, just can't. Those maps haunt me. Mara's out there, hunting her next mark. I thought I'd escaped, but I was wrong. Last week, a package showed up, no return address. Inside, a scratched Clash vinyl, the one from my van, with a note, "See you soon, Ethan." My hands shook as I burned it, but I know she's not done. She'd claimed me, and I'd made the mistake of parking in her world. I don't leave the house much. Toronto broke me, and Mara's still out there, waiting to finish what she started. One bad soul. That's all it took to turn my dream into this horror. I'm Lila Grayson, 27 years old, and I live in Halifax. It's a salty little city, ocean breeze, tight-knit vibes, and my gig at a bookshop keeps me afloat. But I've always craved something bigger, wilder, so I scraped together cash and bought an old delivery van last year. Fixed it up myself. Bed, sink, fairy lights strung across the ceiling. It's my ticket out, and I decided Toronto was the first stop. Big city, new stories, perfect for a solo run. The drive from Halifax was a slog, 12 hours of podcasts, gas station snacks, and dodging moose on the highway. I rolled into Toronto at dusk, the skyline popping against a pink sky. Found a spot near Trinity Bellwoods Park, this artsy patch with trees and enough street parking to blend in. I pulled up, cracked a window, and felt that buzz, finally here on my own terms. First night was golden. I cooked pasta on my stove, sipped cheap wine from a mug, and flipped through a beat-up copy of The Shining. The park hummed outside, dogs barking, kids laughing before dark settled in. I'd read online this was a chill spot for vanlifers. No cops hassling you if you're discreet. I figured I'd stay a week, soak it all in. Morning came crisp and bright. I wandered the park, coffee in hand, watching joggers and hipsters with their dogs. Toronto's got this pulse, gritty but alive. I hit Queen Street, browsed record stores, grabbed a bagel, and sketched the park's funky sculptures. Felt like I'd cracked the code to this road life thing. Freedom, no strings. Then I met him. I was locking up the van when this guy strolled over. Lanky, buzzed hair, wearing a faded flannel. "Hey, sweet setup," he said, nodding at my rig. His grin was easy, disarming. I smiled back, said thanks. He introduced himself as Corey, said he was a local, liked meeting travelers. Seemed harmless, just a chatty dude. We talked for a bit. Nothing heavy, just Toronto tips, weather stuff. He asked how long I'd be around, and I shrugged, said maybe a week. "Park's a good pick," he said, eyeing my van. "Keeps you close to the action." His vibe was friendly, but he lingered a beat too long, watching me fiddle with the lock. "Catch you later," he said finally, drifting off toward the street. I climbed inside, bolted the doors, and settled in. The park quieted down, just distant traffic and wind rustling leaves. I liked Corey's energy, made me feel less alone out here. Toronto was shaping up to be my kind of place, and I drifted off dreaming about tomorrow. Maybe the distillery district or a dive bar. I woke up choking on a scream. It was pitch black, maybe 2 a.m., and my chest was tight, like someone was sitting on it. I fumbled for my phone, light blinding me as I scanned the van. Nothing. Just me, panting, heart racing. A bad dream, I guess. But then I caught it. A faint whiff of smoke, sharp and acrid, seeping through the cracked window. I yanked the curtain back, peering out. The park was still, streetlights buzzing, but that smell, it wasn't right. I leaned closer, nose to the glass, and saw it. A thin wisp curling up from under my van, like something was smoldering. My stomach flipped. This wasn't a dream. This was real, and it was bad. I scrambled out of bed, heart pounding, and grabbed my flashlight. That smoke smell was stronger now, biting my throat as I yanked the side door open. I ducked outside, beam jittering across the pavement. There it was, tendrils curling from under the van, faint but real, pooling near the rear tire. My mind raced. Fire? Leak? I dropped to my knees, shining the light underneath. Nothing obvious. No flames, no dripping fuel, just that damn haze. I stood up, hands shaking, and popped the hood. Engine looked fine. No heat, no sparks. The smoke was thinning, but my gut wouldn't settle. Maybe some jerk tossed a cigarette under there. Or worse, someone messing with me. I thought of Corey, his easy grin, but nah, that was nuts. Still, I grabbed my phone, snapped a pic of the undercarriage, and texted my friend Jess in Halifax. Weird smoke under van. Freaking out a bit. Morning hit, and I was wrecked, eyes gritty from no sleep. I crawled out, checked again. No smoke now, no marks, just damp pavement. Felt like I'd imagined it, but that smell stuck in my nose, sharp and wrong. I debated bailing, finding a new spot, but Trinity Bellwoods was perfect, and I wasn't ready to let some freak glitch ruin my trip. I'd stay, just keep my eyes open. I headed into the city to clear my head. Ossington Avenue was buzzing. Cafes, murals, people spilling out of brunch spots. I grabbed a latte, sketched some street signs, and tried to laugh it off. Smoke happens, right? Old vans are quirky. But every sip tasted off, like my nerves were frying my senses. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting trouble. Back at the park by dusk, I parked in the same spot. Stubborn, maybe, but it was mine now. Cooked some soup, kept the radio low, and double-checked every lock. That's when Corey showed up again. He wandered over from the path, hands in his pockets, same flannel. "Hey, Lila," he said, like we were old pals. "Still kicking around?" I nodded, forcing a smile, but his timing bugged me. He leaned against a tree, chatting, asked about my day, if I'd seen the smoke last night. My stomach flipped. "Smoke?" I said, playing dumb. "Yeah, smelled something weird around here," he said, eyes flicking to my van. "Happens sometimes." His tone was casual, but it felt off, like he knew more than he was letting on. I shrugged, said maybe it was a barbecue, and he just grinned. He hung around, tossing out random Toronto trivia, streetcar routes, some bar I should hit. I nodded along, but my skin was crawling. Was he just friendly, or was this getting disturbing? Finally, he said, "Night's the best here, real quiet," and sauntered off. I watched him melt into the dark, that grin lingering in my head like a bad taste. I locked up tight, triple-checked the windows, and sat there, soup cold in my lap. The park was still, but that smoke memory gnawed at me. Around midnight, it started, a faint scratching, like nails on metal, skittering along the van's side. I froze, flashlight in hand, listening. It stopped, then picked up again, circling slow. My breath hitched. This wasn't wind. I texted Jess again, hearing stuff now. Not cool. No signal, message stuck on sending. The scratching paused, and I peeked out. Nothing but shadows dancing under the streetlights. Then, a whiff hit me, smoke again, faint but real, creeping in. I grabbed my keys, ready to bolt, but something kept me glued there, waiting for whatever was coming next. That scratching stopped, but the smoke smell grew, thick and choking, curling into the van like fingers. I grabbed my flashlight, hands slick with sweat, and flicked it on. The beam caught something, smoke seeping through the floor vents, gray and oily. My chest tightened. This wasn't some stray cig anymore. Then a voice cut through, low and close. "Lila, you in there?" "Corey." My blood ran cold. I slid to the window, peering out. He was right outside, leaning against the van, that grin gone, replaced by something dark, eyes glinting like a predator's. He tapped a lighter against the metal, flick, flick, flick. "You shouldn't park here," he said, voice dripping with menace. My turf. My brain screamed. How'd he know my name? I'd barely told him anything. I lunged for the keys, fumbling, as he kicked the door, bam, denting it inward. "Open up, or I'll make it worse," he snarled. The smoke was thicker now, stinging my eyes, and I realized he'd done something underneath, something burning. I turned the ignition, sputter, nothing. He laughed, harsh and ugly, and smashed the lighter against the window, cracking it. Glass splintered, and I ducked, heart slamming. "You're not leaving," he said, reaching through, fingers brushing my arm. I swung my flashlight, cracking his wrist, and he yanked back, cursing. The engine coughed to life, and I floored it, tires screeching as I tore out of Trinity Bellwoods, smoke trailing behind me like a ghost. I hit the streets, weaving through traffic, Corey's laugh echoing in my skull. My rear view showed nothing, no headlights, no him, but I wasn't stopping. The smoke cleared slow, but the van reeked, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I aimed for the Gardiner Expressway, needing distance, needing out. I pulled into a Tim Hortons lot off the highway, panting, glass crunching under my feet as I checked the damage. The window was trashed, floor vents smudged with soot. Then I saw it, a charred rag stuffed under the passenger seat, still warm. He'd been inside, messing with me, waiting. My stomach lurched. This was no random creep. This was personal. I stumbled inside, begged the cashier to call the cops. She stared, wild-eyed girl, bleeding from glass cuts, and dialed. 2 officers rolled up, took my story, but their faces said it all. "Crazy Vanlifer, probably high. File a report downtown," one muttered. "Stay out of parks." I wanted to scream. "He's out there, he knows me." But they drove off, leaving me hollow. Back in the van, I locked up, parked under the brightest light, and watched every shadow. My phone buzzed. "Jess, call me now." Signal was back, but I couldn't talk, not yet. Corey wasn't just unhinged, he targeted me, toyed with me. That rag proved it. I wasn't safe anywhere near here. Around 3 a.m., I heard it, tires rolling slow past the lot. A pickup, rusted and dark, crept by, Corey's buzzed head silhouetted inside. He didn't stop, just stared, then peeled off. My breath caught. He'd found me again. This wasn't over, and it was turning into something way more disturbing than I'd ever imagined. I didn't think, just slammed the keys in and peeled out of that Tim Hortons lot, tires smoking. The highway stretched ahead, dark and slick, and I pushed the van hard, wind howling through the busted window. Corey's pickup flashed in my mind. Those eyes, that slow roll by. I had to get out of Toronto, back to Halifax, anywhere he couldn't reach. The needle hit 110, my hands white on the wheel, glass biting my arms as I swerved through sparse traffic. Every headlight behind me spiked my pulse. Was it him? That rag, the smoke. It wasn't just a scare. He wanted me gone, or worse. My mind spun. Why me? Just a random van in his turf? It didn't add up, but I didn't care. I just needed distance. Gas gauge blinked low. Damn it, not now. I spotted a Shell station near Pickering, 20 miles out, and limped in, coasting on fumes. Pumped fast, eyes darting. The lot was dead, just me and a flickering sign. I kept the nozzle in one hand, phone in the other, ready to dial 911. The air felt heavy, like he was close. Headlights flared. A pickup roared in, cutting me off. Corey leapt out, crowbar in hand, grinning like a jackal. "Told you," he shouted, swinging at my windshield. It shattered, glass raining, and I floored it, clipping his truck as I bolted. He chased on foot, crowbar gleaming, but I hit the road, engine screaming. His truck roared behind me, gaining fast. I veered onto a side road near Rouge Hill, trees closing in, praying I'd shake him. The van rattled, tires slipping on wet pavement, and I saw water ahead, Lake Ontario's edge. No exit. I braked hard, skidding, and his truck slammed my rear, jolting me forward into the dash. I kicked the door open, bolting for the trees, his engine growling as he followed. Branches clawed my face, my lungs burning as I ran blind. "Lila," he yelled, too close, his voice dripping with glee. I tripped, sprawling in mud, and he was on me, crowbar raised. I rolled, kicking his shin, and he stumbled, giving me a second to scramble up. I darted deeper, splashing through a ditch, his boots pounding behind. My flashlight slipped, lost in the dark, but I kept going, ducking under pines. The truck's headlights swept the woods. He'd driven in, hunting me. I crouched low, mud soaking me, breath ragged, as his beam swung close. He stopped, engine idling, and I heard him mutter, "Can't hide forever." My heart hammered. He was steps away, scanning. I held still, praying the dark swallowed me. Minutes dragged, then the truck revved, tires crunching as he pulled back. Silence fell, just my gasps and the lake lapping nearby. I crept out, legs shaking, needing my van. The road was empty. My rig sat there, dented, doors ajar. No Corey, no truck. Had I lost him? I edged closer, keys still inside, but my gut screamed trap. I had to risk it, had to get out before he circled back. I slid into the van, hands trembling, and grabbed the keys. The air stank of gas, pungent, overwhelming. I glanced down. A puddle glinted on the floor, trailing from a slashed can under the seat. My stomach dropped. Corey'd been here, setting me up. A twig snapped outside, and I spun. He loomed from the trees, lighter flicking in his hand. That grinned back. I turned the key. Nothing. Engine flooded. He lunged, smashing the lighter against the door, sparks flying. "You're done," he hissed, as flames licked up from the gas. I kicked the door into him, fire catching my sleeve, and rolled out, scrambling away as the van ignited. He laughed, swinging the crowbar, but I dodged, heat searing my back. The blaze roared, lighting the night, and I ran, flames chasing me toward the lake. Corey charged, relentless, his flannel singed but eyes wild. I hit the water, splashing in, and he followed, crowbar slashing. I dove under, kicking hard, surfacing yards away as he thrashed, screaming my name. Headlights flashed, a car screeched up, some late-night driver gawking at the fire. I stumbled out, waving, sobbing, "Help me." The guy, middle-aged, stunned, yanked me into his truck, peeling off as sirens wailed. Corey stood knee-deep, silhouetted by the burning van, just watching me go. Cops swarmed later, found his truck abandoned nearby, littered with lighters, rags, photos of vans, mine marked with hers. They called him a drifter, a psycho staking out parks, but he'd vanished into the woods. My van was ash, my arm bandaged from burns, and I hitched a ride back to Halifax, broken. I'm crashing at Jess's now, a shell, burn scars itching, nightmares every night. One guy, one twisted mind, torch my life in a flash. Cops say I'm safe, but I don't buy it. He knew me, hunted me, and I'd parked right in his game. I quit the road, sold my books to pay bills, freedom's gone. I don't go out much. Every creak, every whiff of smoke, it's him. Jess keeps the lights on, but I see that grin in the dark. He'd claimed Trinity Bellwoods, and I'd paid for crossing him. One bad soul shredded everything I'd built. Yesterday, a text from an unknown number. "Miss your van, Lila?" I blocked it, hands shaking, but I know it's Corey. He's out there, waiting, and I'd made the mistake of thinking I could outrun him. I didn't. Toronto was my shot at something big, but he turned it into a horror I can't escape. One person's hate, that's all it took to ruin me. I'm Jasper Tate, 34 years old, and I live in Winnipeg. It's flat, cold, and quiet there, perfect for my mechanic job, tinkering with engines all day. But I've got this itch to roam, always have, so I sunk cash into an old Ford van a while back. Rigged it up with a bed, a propane heater, and a shelf for my tools. Last week, I pointed it south to Toronto, 6 hours away, a city big enough to shake off the prairie dust. I rolled in late, the skyline glowing like a neon beast. Found a spot near Humber Bay Park, this waterfront stretch with trails and a view of Lake Ontario. Parked under some trees, killed the engine, and just sat there, soaking it in. The water lapped soft, city lights twinkling across the bay. Felt like I'd landed somewhere alive, somewhere mine. First night was smooth. I fried up some sausages, cracked a beer, and flipped through a car mag I'd snagged from a gas station. The park was calm, waves humming, a few late dog walkers shuffling by. I'd heard vanlifers crash here sometimes, low-key, no trouble. Figured I'd stay a few days, maybe fix up some local rides for cash. Morning hit with a chill off the lake. I stepped out, stretched, and walked the shore, gulls squawking, joggers huffing past. Toronto's got this raw energy, gritty and loud. I grabbed coffee from a nearby stand, scoped out the skyline, and tinkered with my heater's wiring. Felt good, like I was carving out my own corner of the world. That's when I met her. I was tightening a bolt on the van when this woman wandered over, tall, blonde, bundled in a scarf and a puffy coat. "Hey, nice ride." she said, voice bright but sharp. I nodded, said thanks. She introduced herself as Vanessa, said she walked the park daily. Seemed chatty, maybe too curious. We shot the breeze, weather, the lake, my trip from Winnipeg. She asked if I'd built the van myself, and I gave her the short version. Yeah, piece by piece. Her eyes lingered on it, like she was cataloging every detail. You here long? She asked. Few days, I said, keeping it vague. She smiled, said, good spot, and drifted off toward the trail. I locked up, climbed inside, and settled in. The park quieted down, just the water and a distant hum of traffic. Vanessa seemed fine, friendly, local color. I liked the vibe here, figured I'd explore more tomorrow. Maybe hit the waterfront bars. Drifted off with the heater purring, feeling solid. I jolted awake around 1 a.m., something off. The heater was still going, but the air felt thick, stale, almost sour. I rubbed my eyes, grabbed my flashlight, and scanned the van. Nothing weird inside, but that smell, it was creeping in from somewhere. I cracked the window, and it hit harder, rancid, like rotting meat, wafting from outside. I leaned out, shining the light. The park was dark, trees swaying, but the beam caught something. A wet smear on the ground near my tires, glistening red. My gut clenched. Blood? No way. I told myself it was paint, some kid's prank, but my hands were already shaking as I locked the window and sat there, wide awake, listening to the night. I didn't sleep after spotting that smear. Sat there, flashlight gripped tight, staring at the locked door like it'd spill answers. That smell, rotten, heavy, stuck in my throat, even after I shut the window. Morning crawled in, gray and damp, and I bolted outside to check. The smear was still there, dark red, streaked across the gravel near my tire. Looked like blood, no denying it now. My stomach churned. Prank or not, this was messed up. I grabbed a rag, wiped it up quick, and tossed it in a dumpster down the trail. Didn't want that crap near me. Checked the van. Tires fine, no scratches, just that damn spot cleaned off. Could have been an animal. Maybe a raccoon dragged something bloody by. Yeah, that's it. I texted my buddy Mike in Winnipeg. Weird shit in Toronto. Blood by the van. He'd laugh, call me jumpy. Decided to shake it off, hit the city. Drove to Roncesvalles, parked near some Polish bakeries, and wandered. Smelled pierogies, not rot, better. Grabbed a coffee, fixed a loose bolt on a guy's bike for $10, and kept busy. But that smear kept nagging me, like a splinter I couldn't dig out. Was it really random? Back at Humber Bay by dusk, I parked in the same spot. Dumb, maybe, but I wasn't running yet. Fired up the heater, cooked some eggs, and kept the radio low. Then Vanessa showed up again. She strolled over, scarf tied around her neck, smiling like nothing. Hey, Jasper, she said, smooth as butter. Still here? I nodded. Uneasy she remembered my name so quick. She leaned on a tree, asking about my day, if I'd seen anything weird around. My skin prickled. Weird how? I asked, playing it cool. Oh, just stuff, she said, eyes flicking to the ground where that smear had been. Park's got its quirks. Her smile didn't budge, but it fell off, like she was testing me. I shrugged, said it had been quiet. She kept talking, lake tides, some dog she'd seen earlier. I nodded, but my mind was racing. Did she know something? That smell, that blood, coincidence? Nights when it gets interesting, she said, almost to herself, then wandered off. I watched her go, her blonde hair catching the last light, and felt a chill I couldn't shake. I locked up tight, checked the heater, running fine, no leaks. The park was still, just waves lapping, but that sour stink crept back, faint at first, then stronger. I sniffed around. Nothing inside, but it was seeping through the vents. My pulse kicked up. This wasn't normal, not twice in a row. Around midnight, it got worse. A low thud hit the van's side, soft, like something dropped. I grabbed my wrench, crept to the window, and peeked out. Nothing moved, just shadows, but that smell was choking now. Then I saw it. Another smear, fresh and wet, smeared across the back door. My breath caught. This wasn't an animal. I texted Mike again. More blood. Not cool. No bars. Message hung. The thud came again, closer, and I gripped the wrench harder, ears straining. Something, or someone, was out there, circling, and I was starting to think Vanessa's quirks weren't just small talk. I sat there, wired, waiting for the next move. That thud hit again, sharper, and I jolted, wrench sweaty in my grip. The smell, rotten, sour, flooded the van now, pouring through the vents like a fog. Then a voice cut the dark. "Jasper, you awake?" "Vanessa," right outside, her tone cold as ice. My heart slammed. I hadn't told her my name twice, had I? I peeked out, and there she was, blonde hair glowing under the streetlight, holding a dripping bag, red staining her hands. I froze, breath shallow, as she tapped the window. Tap, 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 with a knife tip, slick with something dark. "You shouldn't be here," she said, eyes locked on mine, unblinking. "This is my place." My brain scrambled. Her place? She smirked, dragging the knife down the glass, screeching. This wasn't quirky. This was straight up scary. I lunged for the keys, hands shaking, as she slammed the bag against the door. Splat, blood oozing down the metal. "Open it," she hissed, kicking hard. The lock rattled, and I turned the ignition. Sputter, cough, nothing. She laughed, low and nasty, and smashed the knife through the window, glass exploding inward. Shards hit my face, and I swung the wrench, catching her arm. She yanked back, snarling. "You'll pay." The engine roared alive, and I floored it, tires spinning gravel as I peeled out of Humber Bay. That bag flopped off, splattering the ground. Meat, guts, something dead. My stomach heaved. She was unhinged, and I was her target. I hit the road, headlights slicing the night, blood streaking the van's side. My pulse raced. What the hell was her deal? That smell, those smears, she'd been setting me up, marking me. I aimed for the 427, needing distance, needing cops, anything to shake this nightmare loose. I pulled into a Husky station lot, panting, glass crunching under my boots as I checked the damage. Window trashed, blood smeared everywhere, and that bag's stench clung to me. Then I saw it, a note tucked under the wiper. "Mine now, Jasper." My knees buckled. She'd been inside, planned this. This was personal, disturbing as hell. I stumbled inside, begged the clerk to call the law. He stared, wild-eyed guy, cut up, stinking of rot, and dialed. Cops rolled up, took my story, but their vibe was lazy. "Drifter, probably," one said, yawning. "File a report." Useless. I slumped against the van, blood drying on my hands, feeling hunted. I locked up, parked under the station's lights, and watched the dark. My phone buzzed. "Mike, blood? Dude, call me." Signal flickered, but I couldn't talk. Vanessa wasn't just crazy. She'd claimed me, and I didn't know why. That note burned in my head. She wasn't done. Around 4 a.m., headlights swept the lot. A black SUV rolled in slow, Vanessa's blonde hair flashing as she stared from the driver's seat. My gut sank. She tracked me. She didn't stop, just circled and peeled off, but the message hit hard. This was her game, and I was still playing it. I didn't wait. Keys in, engine growling. I tore out of that Husky lot, tires screaming. The highway stretched dark and wet, wind howling through the busted window, glass cutting my arms as I gripped the wheel. Vanessa's SUV lingered in my mind. Those eyes, that slow roll by. I had to get out of Toronto, back to Winnipeg, anywhere she couldn't follow. I pushed 120, van rattling, every headlight behind me spiking my fear. That note, mine now, twisted in my gut. Why me? Some psycho turf war. Didn't matter. I just needed gone. The smell of blood clung to me, sour and thick, a reminder she'd been close, too close. My hands shook, but I kept driving. Gaslight blinked. Shit, not now. I spotted an exit near Milton, a lone Petro-Canada glowing in the dark. Pulled in, coasting, and started pumping, eyes darting. The lot was empty, just me and the hum of the pump. I kept my wrench handy. Phone dead, no calling for help. Felt like a sitting duck. Headlights flared. Her SUV roared in, cutting me off. Vanessa leapt out, knife gleaming, grinning like a fiend. "Told you," she shouted, swinging at my hood, clang, denting it deep. I yanked the nozzle out, gas splashing, and dove for the van. She lunged, slashing my arm, hot pain flaring as I peeled out. She chased, SUV roaring, tailing me tight. I swerved onto a back road near the 16-mile creek, trees swallowing us, praying I'd lose her. The van fishtailed, tires slipping, and I saw the creek ahead, a dead drop. I braked hard, skidding, and she rammed my rear, jolting me into the dash, blood dripping from my arm. I kicked the door open, bolting for the woods, her engine revving behind. Branches snapped, my lungs burning as I ran blind. "Jasper!" she screamed, too close, her voice dripping venom. I tripped, rolling down a slope, and she was on me, knife raised. I swung the wrench, cracking her knee, and she stumbled, giving me a split second to scramble up. I darted deeper, splashing through mud, her boots pounding after me. The SUV's lights swept the trees, she'd driven in, hunting. I ducked low, chest heaving, as her beam swung close. "You're mine," she yelled, slashing air. I held my breath, arm throbbing, praying she'd miss me in the dark. She stopped, engine idling, muttering curses. My heart hammered. She was yards away, scanning. Minutes dragged, then the SUV revved, tires crunching as she pulled back. Silence fell, just my gasps and the creak's rush. Had I lost her? I crept toward the road, needing my van, keys still inside. I broke the tree line, then dented, doors ajar. No Vanessa, no SUV, just blood and mud. My arm bled steady, soaking my sleeve, but I had to move. Climbed in, turned the key, sputter, then life. I floored it, headlights cutting the night, but my gut screamed she wasn't gone, just waiting. I gripped the wheel, arm pulsing, and peeled onto the highway, van rattling like it'd die any second. The air stank, blood, gas, fear, and I saw it. A gas can slashed open on the floor, leaking slow. My stomach dropped. Vanessa'd rigged it, waiting to spark me up. A twig snapped outside, and I spun. She loomed from the dark, lighter flicking, that grin wide and wild. I floored it, engine screaming, as she tossed the lighter through the busted window. Flames whooshed, catching the gas, and I swerved, fire licking my leg. Kicked the door open, rolled out onto the road, skin burning as the van blazed. She charged, knife high, laughing. Mine. I scrambled up, dodging as she swung, heat searing my back. The fire roared, lighting the night, and I ran, flames chasing me toward the creek. Vanessa followed, relentless, her coat singed but eyes gleaming. I hit the water, splashing in, and she waited after, knife slashing. I dove under, kicking hard, surfacing downstream as she thrashed, screaming my name through the smoke. Headlights flashed, a truck screeched up, some guy yelling, "What the hell?" I stumbled out, waving, choking, "She's crazy." He dragged me in, peeling off as sirens wailed. Vanessa stood in the creek, silhouetted by the burning van, just watching me go. My leg throbbed, charred and bloody, but I was alive, for now. Cops swarmed later, found her SUV nearby, packed with knives, gas cans, photos of vans, mine circled in red. They called her a drifter, obsessed with claiming travelers, but she'd vanished into the woods. My van was a husk, my arm and leg patched up, and I hitched back to Winnipeg, a wreck. I'm holed up at Mike's now, a ghost, burns itching, nightmares every night. One woman, one twisted mind, torched my life in hours. Cops say she's gone, but I don't believe it. She knew me, hunted me, and I'd parked right in her trap. I quit fixing rigs, can't even look at tools without shaking. I don't leave the house much. Every creak, every whiff of gas, it's her. Mike locks up tight, but I see that grin in the dark. She'd marked Humber Bay as hers, and I'd paid the price. One sick soul shredded everything I'd built, and I can't unsee it. Last night, a call from an unknown number, static, then her voice. "Miss me, Jasper?" I smashed the phone, hands trembling, but I know she's out there. I'd thought I could outrun her, but that was my mistake. She's not done, and I'm not free. Toronto was my shot at something new, but she turned it into a horror I'll never shake. One person's hate, that's all it took to break me. I'm Quinn Riley, 30 years old, and I live in Calgary. It's wide open there, mountains, big sky, and my warehouse job keeps the bills paid. But I've got this restless streak, so I traded my savings for an old Chevy van last year. Fixed it up, bed, cooler, solar lights, and hit the road. Toronto was my next stop, a 9-hour haul east, chasing city lights and a break from the quiet. Felt like the perfect spot to test my wings. I rolled in at dusk, the skyline jagged and bright against the gray. Found a spot near Cherry Beach, this sandy stretch on Lake Ontario's edge, gravel lot, some trees, chill vibes. Parked, cracked a window, and just listened to the waves. It was raw, peaceful, a little slice of freedom after the long drive. I figured I'd crash here a few nights, explore the city. First night was easy. I cooked ramen on my stove, popped a beer, and scrolled my phone till the signal crapped out. The beach was quiet, water lapping, a distant horn from the port. I'd read Vanlifers like this spot, low-key, no hassle. Sounded like my kind of place, and I drifted off feeling smug about pulling this off. Morning came with a breeze off the lake. I stepped out, stretched, and walked the shore. Gulls screeched, a jogger huffed by. Toronto's got this grit, a pulse that hums even out here. I grabbed a coffee from a food truck, tinkered with my solar setup, and soaked it in. Felt like I'd nailed this van life gig, solo, no rules. Then I met him. I was locking up when this guy ambled over, stocky, shaved head, wearing a stained jacket. "Hey, cool van," he said, voice rough like gravel. I nodded, said thanks. He called himself Darren, said he fished the beach sometimes. Seemed friendly, just a local shooting the breeze. We chatted, weather, the lake, my trip from Calgary. He asked if I'd built the van, how long I'd stay. I kept it light, said a few days. "Good spot," he said, eyeing my rig too long. Real private. Something about his stare bugged me, but I brushed it off. People get curious, right? He shuffled off toward the water. I climbed inside, bolted the doors, and settled in. The beach hushed down, just waves and wind rattling the trees. Darren seemed harmless, chatty, maybe lonely. I liked it here, planned to hit the city tomorrow, maybe the St. Lawrence market. Fell asleep with the lake singing, feeling on top of the world. I woke up gasping, chest tight, around 3 a.m. The air was wrong, sharp, chemical, like paint thinner. I fumbled for my flashlight, scanned the van, nothing. Just me, sweating, pulse racing. Bad dream, I figured, but that smell wouldn't quit, seeping in from outside. My skin prickled, something was off. I cracked the curtain, peeked out. The beach was still, moonlight glinting off the water, but that stench hit harder, nasty, burning my nose. I leaned closer, and my light caught it. A puddle under the van, dark and slick, spreading slow. My gut dropped. This wasn't a spill. This was trouble, and it was real. I grabbed my boots, heart thumping, and slid the door open quiet. That chemical stink punched me, eyes watering as I shone the flashlight under the van. The puddle gleamed, oily, black, reeking like gasoline. My stomach flipped. Leak? Sabotage? I checked the tank. No holes, no drips. This was poured, deliberate, and it scared the hell out of me. I wiped my hands, grabbed my phone, and snapped a pic. Proof, just in case. Texted my sister Ava in Calgary. Gas under van. Freaked out. Signal was spotty, but it sent. I thought of Darren, his weird stare, but nah, too soon to point fingers. Still, I double-checked the locks, debating whether to bail right then. Night driving's risky, though, and I was beat. Morning hit, and I was wrecked. No sleep, head pounding. Crawled out, checked again. The puddle was drying, stench fading, but my nerves were shot. Could have been kids messing around, but my gut said no. I decided to stay. Cherry Beach was too good to ditch over one weird night. I'd watch my back, that's all. I drove into the city, parked near Dundas Square, and wandered. Neon buzzed, crowds jostled. Kept my mind off that gas. Grabbed a burger, watched street performers, but my eyes kept darting, like I was waiting for something bad. That puddle stuck with me. Too close, too wrong. Was I jumping at shadows? Back at the beach by dusk, I parked same spot, stubborn, maybe dumb. Cooked some beans, kept the radio low, and locked up tight. Then Darren showed up again. He wandered over, jacket flapping, grinning. "Hey Quinn," he said, smooth as oil. Still here. My skin crawled. He'd caught my name quick, hadn't he? He leaned on a post, asking about my day, if I'd smelled anything funny last night. My pulse spiked. "Funny how?" I said, casual-like. "Oh, just stuff," he said, shrugging, but his eyes drilled into me. "Beach gets weird sometimes." That grin stayed, but it felt off. Too sharp, too knowing. I said maybe it was the lake, playing it cool. He hung around, chatting, fish he'd caught, some bar nearby. I nodded, but my brain screamed, did he know? That gas, that smell, was it him? "Nights when it gets fun," he said, almost sly, then shuffled off. I watched him fade into the dark. That grin burned in my head, and felt a chill settle deep. I locked everything, triple-checked the windows, and sat there, beans cold. The beach was quiet, but that chemical whiff crept back, faint but real. Around midnight, it started, a soft slosh, like liquid hitting metal, along the van's side. I froze, flashlight shaking, listening. It stopped, then came again, slow and steady. I texted Ava, hearing shit now. Not good. No signal, stuck sending. The sloshing circled, deliberate, and I peeked out. Nothing but shadows swaying. Then the smell hit hard. Gasoline. Thick and choking, seeping in. My throat burned, and I grabbed my keys, ready to bolt. But something kept me there, braced for whatever was coming. That sloshing stopped, but the gas stench flooded the van, gagging me. I clutched my flashlight, beam shaking, and caught it. Vapors curling through the vents, hazy and toxic. Then Darren's voice rasped outside. "Quinn, you up?" My blood iced. He was right there, too close. I peeked out, and he stood by the door, shaved head glinting, holding a jerry can, dripping wet. I held my breath, heart slamming, as he tapped the can. Thunk, thunk, grinning like a shark. "You don't belong here," he said, voice low, unhinged. "My beach." My mind raced. His beach? He sloshed gas on the door, the reek choking me, and I knew this was no prank. This was horror, pure and simple. I dove for the keys, fumbling, as he kicked the side. Bam, rocking the van. "Open it, or burn," he snarled, splashing more. The fumes stung my eyes, and I turned the ignition. Nothing, just clicks. He laughed, tossing the can down, and pulled a lighter, flicking it alive. I swung my flashlight at the window, ready to smash out, but he beat me to it. Crack, glass shattered inward. Shards sliced my hands, and I ducked, gas pooling inside now. "You're done," he said, reaching through, lighter blazing. I swung again, cracking his knuckles, and he jerked back, cursing. The engine coughed alive, and I floored it, tires spinning sand as I tore out, flames licking the frame where he'd sparked it. I hit the road, headlights wild, fire trailing my rear. Darren's laugh echoed, and my pulse roared. He'd lost it, and I was his mark. I swerved through streets, aiming for downtown, somewhere with lights, people. The flames died out, but the van stank, gas fumes burning my lungs, and my hands bled steady. I pulled into a shell lot off Jarvis, panting, glass crunching as I checked the damage. Window gone, gas soaked everywhere, and a scorch mark on the back. Then I saw it, a scrap of paper under the seat. "Mine, Quinn." My guts sank. He'd been inside, set me up. This was planned, disturbing as hell. I stumbled inside, begged the clerk for cops. He stared, bloody hands, gas-soaked, and dialed. 2 officers showed, took my story, but they shrugged. "Beach bum maybe," one said. "Report it downtown." Useless. I slumped against the counter, shaking, feeling like prey in a trap I didn't see coming. Back in the van, I locked up, parked under lights, and watched every shadow. My phone buzzed. "Ava? Call me now." Signal flickered, but I couldn't face it. Darren wasn't just a nut. He'd targeted me, claimed me. That note, the gas, it was personal, and I was still breathing his air. Around 5 a.m., headlights swept the lot. A beat-up hatchback rolled slow, Darren's stocky frame hunched inside, staring. My chest seized. He'd found me. He didn't stop, just grinned and drove off, but the message landed. This was his hunt, and I was still running from something way too scary to face. I didn't wait. Keys in, engine sputtering, I peeled out of that shell lot, tires squealing. The highway loomed, dark and slick, and I pushed the van hard, wind roaring through the busted window, gas fumes stinging my eyes. Darren's hatchback burned in my mind, that grin, that slow roll. I had to get out of Toronto, back to Calgary, anywhere he couldn't reach. I hit 110, van shaking, every headlight behind me spiking my fear. That note, mine, twisted my guts. Why me? Some sick beach claim? Didn't matter, I needed gone. The stench of gas clung, a reminder he'd been inside, plotting. My hands bled, slick on the wheel, but I kept pushing, praying the tank held. Gaslight blinked. Damn it now? I spotted an SO near Oshawa, 30 miles out, and limped in, fumes trailing. Pumped fast, eyes darting. The lot was dead, just me and a buzzing sign. I kept my flashlight ready, phone useless, no signal. Felt like a deer in a scope, waiting for the shot. Headlights flared. His hatchback roared in, cutting me off. Darren leapt out, crowbar gleaming, grinning wide. "Told you," he shouted, swinging at my hood. Clang, denting it deep. I yanked the nozzle, gas splashing, and dove inside. He swung again, cracking the windshield, and I floored it, clipping his car as I bolted. He chased, hatchback roaring, tailing tight. I veered onto a side road near Whitby, trees closing in, praying I'd lose him. The van skidded, tires slipping, and I saw water ahead. Darlington Provincial Park, a lake drop. No way out. I braked hard, sliding, and he rammed my rear, jolting me forward, glass cutting deeper. I kicked the door open, bolting for the woods, his engine growling behind. Branches clawed me, lungs burning as I ran blind. "Quinn," he yelled, too close, voice dripping malice. I tripped, sprawling in dirt, and he loomed, crowbar high. I rolled, kicking his leg, and he stumbled, giving me a breath to scramble up. I darted deeper, splashing through a stream, his boots pounding after. His headlights swept the trees. He'd driven in, hunting me. I ducked low, chest heaving, as his beam swung close. "You're mine," he roared, swinging wild. I held still, blood dripping, praying the dark hid me from this nightmare. He stopped, engine idling, muttering threats. My heart thumped. He was yards away, searching. Minutes dragged, then the hatchback revved, tires crunching as he pulled back. Silence fell, just my gasps and the lake's hush. Had he quit? I crept toward the road, needing my van, keys still inside. I broke the trees, been dented, doors wide. No Darren, no car, just gas and blood. My hands shook, cuts oozing, but I had to move. Climbed in, turned the key, sputter, then life. I floored it, headlights cutting the dark, but my gut screamed he wasn't gone, just lurking, waiting for round two. I gripped the wheel, hands slick, and hit the highway, van rattling like it had collapsed. The air stank, gas, blood, fear, and I saw it. The cooler slashed, gas pooling inside, a soaked rag stuffed in. My stomach dropped. Darren rigged it, waiting to torch me. A shadow moved outside, and I spun. He loomed, lighter flicking, that grin wild as ever. I swerved, engine screaming, as he tossed the lighter in. Flames whooshed, catching the rag. I kicked the door open, rolling onto pavement, skin scraping as the van blazed. He charged, crowbar high, laughing, "Mine." I scrambled up, dodging as he swung, fire searing my arm. The heat roared, a beast eating my home. The blaze lit the night, and I ran, flames licking my heels toward the lake. Darren followed, relentless, his jacket singed but eyes mad. I hit the water, splashing in, and he waited after, crowbar slashing. I dove under, kicking hard, surfacing far off as he thrashed, screaming my name through the smoke. Headlights flashed, a car screeched up, some guy yelling, "Holy shit." I stumbled out, waving, choking help. He yanked me in, peeling off as sirens wailed. Darren stood in the lake, framed by the burning van, just staring. My arm throbbed, burned and bloody, but I was out, for now. Cops swarmed later, found his hatchback nearby, stuffed with gas cans, rags, photos of vans. Mine marked hers. They called him a drifter, obsessed with owning Cherry Beach, but he'd melted into the dark. My van was ash, my arm patched, and I hitched back to Calgary, a wreck, barely alive. I'm crashing at Ava's now, a shell, burns itching, nightmares every night. One guy, one twisted soul, torched my life in a flash. Cops say he's gone, but I don't buy it. He knew me, hunted me, and I parked right in his web. I quit the road, sold my tools, freedom's dead. I don't go out much. Every creek, every gas whiff, it's him. Ava locks up tight, but I see that grin in the shadows. He'd claimed the beach, and I'd paid for crossing him. One sick mind shredded everything I'd built, and I can't shake it. Yesterday, a note slipped under the door. No stamp, just "Miss me, Quinn," in jagged scrawl. I burned it, hands shaking, but I know it's Darren. I thought I'd escaped, but that was my mistake. He's out there, waiting, and I'm not free. Toronto was my shot at something big, but he turned it into a horror I'll never outrun. One person's hate, that's all it took to break me.